The film begins by showing two girls who appear to be watching an antique clock. At that moment, they patiently wait for the clock to strike midnight because they believe something magical will happen at that moment. The scene then shifts to some time earlier, showing the daily lives of two girls named Shen Xi, a 20-year-old Libra, and her childhood friend named Dodo, an Aquarius. Apparently, they have been living together in a boarding house where Dodo has only two goals in life: to become a famous Instagram celebrity and to find a partner for Shen Xi. Every day, Dodo is seen live streaming on TikTok, even though no one is watching. Dodo then informs Shen Xi that the boarding house owner has asked her to pay the rent as soon as possible. However, the rent money that Shen Xi had collected was instead used by Dodo to buy items from an online store. Hearing this, Shen Xi became very angry, but she had to leave immediately because she had a job interview that made her rush to catch a crowded bus. Eventually, Shen Xi arrives at the office looking disheveled. Initially, Shen Xi is rejected because of her appearance. But Shen Xi does not give up and tries to convince the HR representative who is interviewing her. Fortunately, one of the company's directors happens to see Shen Xi and is impressed by her effort. Finally, the man decides to hire her to work at the office. The next day, Shen Xi starts her first day at the office. With enthusiasm, she introduces herself to her colleagues. However, no one responded to Shen Xi's greeting, and she soon realized that everyone there seemed tense due to the presence of the company leader. A little while later, the office atmosphere became more relaxed after the leaders left the office. Not long after, when Shen Xi was in the canteen and about to eat, she tried to find an empty spot. Unfortunately, when she found a table, there was already a man sitting there who immediately told her to leave as soon as she sat down. Hearing this, Shen Xi felt upset due to his cold treatment toward her as a new employee. Therefore, Shen Xi stubbornly decided to stay seated there. But, without Shen Xi realizing it, that seat turned out to be a special place usually reserved for the company president. Knowing this, Shen Xi felt uncomfortable, but she continued eating because all the other places were full. As a result of Shen Xi's action, the man became even angrier and left her. After work, Shen Xi told her best friend about what had happened. Initially, Shen Xi thought that her career would end with her being fired that day. However, she was instead promoted to be the president's assistant at her office. Sometime later, on her first day as an assistant, Shen Xi's task was to deliver a cup of coffee to the president's office. She was amazed by the luxury of the office and even secretly tried sitting in the president's chair. However, the company president suddenly appeared, startling Shen Xi as she realized that the man who had been with her in the canteen the previous day was the company president, named He Zhi Zhou. He Zhi Zhou then asked Shen Xi to accompany him to a meeting. During the meeting, He Zhi Zhou showed his ruthless nature, harshly reprimanding the leaders, including criticizing the appearance of a female manager. He even fired a senior director just for being frequently late. After work, Shen Xi told Dodo about the incident. As a result, she thought about quitting her job because she was afraid of her boss's harsh demeanor. While chatting with her best friend, suddenly He Zhi Zhou called her and asked her to buy takoyaki, and within 20 minutes, she had to be back at the office. But when Shen Xi arrived at the takoyaki stall, the stall owner said that the takoyaki was sold out and had been bought by a little boy who had just passed by Shen Xi. In a desperate situation, Shen Xi tried to offer any amount of money to get the boy to give up his takoyaki. However, the little boy just ate the takoyaki in front of her. Seeing this, Shen Xi was annoyed and grabbed the takoyaki. After a hard struggle, Shen Xi finally returned to the office. However, Shen Xi was late, so He Zhi Zhou ordered her to throw away the takoyaki, even though she had gone to great lengths to get it. Additionally, as He Zhi Zhou was about to leave, he scolded Shen Xi for her disheveled appearance. After that, Shen Xi walked home dejectedly, thinking again about quitting her job. But the director who was impressed with Shen Xi during her job interview named Yu Tang suddenly came and offered to give her a ride home. Shen Xi, who was captivated by Yu Tang's handsomeness, accepted the offer and made up her mind to continue working at the office. The next day, Shen Xi's colleague named Zheng Quan asked her to sit with him in the canteen. Initially, Shen Xi refused because she knew that the table was reserved for directors and the president. However, Zheng Quan insisted and explained that the rule had changed. This happened after Shen Xi protested that there should be no discrimination at the dining area yesterday, and everyone has the right to sit wherever they want. Zhenquan also informed her that Yutang wanted to invite her to a karaoke place as a welcome party. Hearing this, Shen Xi felt happy, but she was also worried about the possibility of getting an overtime task from He Zhi Zhou. In the end, they went to the karaoke place and had fun drinking alcohol together. While enjoying the drinks, Shen Xi suddenly received a call from He Zhi Zhou ordering her to return to the office. However, Shen Xi chose to ignore the call and even turned off her phone. The more Shen Xi drank, the more drunk she became, and then invited Yutang to dance with her. As Shen Xi was getting more immersed in the party, He Zhi Zhou suddenly appeared, making the atmosphere tense immediately. Without saying a word, he quickly took Shen Xi away from the karaoke place. After that, she was ordered to work overtime, even though it was already midnight, making Shen Xi feel extremely tired and sleepy. However, after completing her task, He Zhi Zhou was not satisfied with what Shen Xi had done and asked her to start over from the beginning. Frustrated by He Zhi Zhou's demand, Shen Xi cursed him, hoping that he wouldn't be able to urinate. Unexpectedly, that really happened. Worried because He Zhi Zhou didn't come out of the bathroom, Shen Xi decided to check on him and found her boss unconscious. Shen Xi tried to help He Zhi Zhou by giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to revive him. But a security guard who saw the incident misunderstood and accused Shen Xi of trying to kill He Zhi Zhou. Shortly after, Shen Xi was taken to the police station for questioning. While at the police station, something strange happened as time stopped exactly at midnight, and suddenly Shen Xi was taken back to a few hours earlier when she was dancing with Yutang. Initially, the event left Shen Xi confused. Eventually, she realized that she now had a superpower to rewind time, with the condition that she must be scolded by someone. When she got home, Shen Xi told Dodo about this incident. Upon hearing this, Dodo explained that Shen Xi's superpower would only last for 18 days, due to the magnetic field interactions between Mars and the Sun. She also told Shen Xi to make the best use of this power. Apparently, they planned to try Shen Xi's power on their landlord, hoping to live rent-free. Unfortunately, this plan failed, and they got scolded instead. After that, Dodo concluded that Shen Xi's superpower only worked on He Zhi Zhou, and Shen Xi decided to try again the next day. But when Shen Xi slept, she had a nightmare in which the landlord tried to kill her. After waking up, Shen Xi realized she was on her period. With pain, she went to the office, bent over and clutching her stomach. Upon arriving there, Shen Xi met Zhenquan, who immediately praised her. According to him, Shen Xi was very brave to face He Zhi Zhou. Not long after that, unexpectedly, He Zhi Zhou appeared and asked Zhenquan to follow him to his office. After speaking with He Zhi Zhou, Zhenquan came out of the room looking upset because he had been scolded over a trivial matter. Shortly after, Yutang came with a beautiful woman named Wei Yi, who was a director from another company. Yutang then told Shen Xi that Wei Yi wanted to collaborate because she had long admired He Zhi Zhou. However, Zhenquan, still upset, then cursed He Zhi Zhou to choke while drinking coffee. Unexpectedly, He Zhi Zhou choked and died immediately. Shen Xi soon realized that her superpower only worked on those who cursed He Zhi Zhou, because when he died, Shen Xi would be sent back a few hours earlier. In short, when the clock on the wall struck 12, Shen Xi's magical ability worked and she returned to a few hours earlier. After realizing what had happened, Shen Xi pleaded with Zhenquan not to curse He Zhi Zhou. But as time went on, many people cursed He Zhi Zhou because of his very cruel demeanor. Therefore, Shen Xi always saved He Zhi Zhou from those curses. In short, Shen Xi went home through a heavy downpour. However, she saw Dodo outside with their belongings. Unexpectedly, they had both been evicted by the landlord because they had not paid the rent. Feeling at their lowest point, Dodo wished to live in a villa or a luxurious house. Hearing this, Shen Xi had a crazy idea. The next day, Shen Xi and Dodo packed their bags and went to He Zhi Zhou's house. When they arrived, He Zhi Zhou only came out briefly and without a word and immediately shut the door again. Apparently, Shen Xi had the idea to use another method, where she would rewind time by cursing He Zhi Zhou to die first. When time reset successfully, Shen Xi managed to convince He Zhi Zhou to let them in, under the pretext of company business. Finally, they were allowed to enter He Zhi Zhou's luxurious house. After that, Shen Xi explained to He Zhi Zhou something that might be hard for him to believe. As she said that 5 days ago, her friend Dodo bought an astronomical instrument, and observed a phenomenon of the magnetic field of Mars colliding with the Sun, which is a rare event. This phenomenon would last for 21 days, and during that time, anyone who cursed He Zhi Zhou would see their curse come true. Shen Xi also added that every time He Zhi Zhou died, time would rewind, and a new mole would appear on her palm. Dodo also added that although every time He Zhi Zhou died, Shen Xi could rewind time again. But if he dies after the 12th day, time cannot be rewound anymore, and He Zhi Zhou will truly be dead. At that moment, Shen Xi and Dodo said that only they could save him and tried to prove Shen Xi's power by predicting the outcome of a football match on television. Shen Xi then predicted that the Chinese team would score a goal and win the match against South Korea by a 1-goal margin. Initially, He Zhi Zhou, who did not believe them, immediately kicked them out. But Shen Xi's prediction about the final score turned out to be correct, and they were finally allowed to stay in He Zhi Zhou's house and enjoy all its luxuries. The next day, they woke up feeling hungry and asked He Zhi Zhou for food so they could continue to protect him. Initially, He Zhi Zhou was not too worried about his safety, as he assumed no one would curse him. Hearing that, Shen Xi immediately sent a message to her office friends to discuss He Zhi Zhou. Unexpectedly, all of her colleagues replied with messages full of insults toward He Zhi Zhou. Realizing that he was disliked by his own employees, He Zhi Zhou started trying to change his attitude. He began training himself to smile, be more patient, and make an effort to praise others' work with the help of Shen Xi. Until one day, when the president was not in his office, Shen Xi entered his office and found documents explaining the reason for the dismissal of a senior director earlier. It turned out that the man was not fired for being late, but for embezzling company funds. He Zhi Zhou, who arrived shortly after, explained that he couldn't prosecute the director because he wanted to give him a chance to improve himself and find work elsewhere. This act of generosity by He Zhi Zhou made Shen Xi admire him. During their conversation, Shen Xi also managed to capture the first genuine smile from He Zhi Zhou. Over time, his positive attitude change was well received by his employees. Additionally, his relationship with Shen Xi also became closer. Realizing that Shen Xi was still single, He Zhi Zhou then invited her to have coffee by the river. That night, under the city lights, Shen Xi asked for a compliment from He Zhi Zhou. But as he leaned closer, Shen Xi felt embarrassed and quickly left the place. At that moment, Shen Xi also started to develop feelings for He Zhi Zhou. The next day, Dodo told her that it was the last day of the phenomenon of Mars' magnetic field colliding with the Sun, and they planned to celebrate their success in protecting He Zhi Zhou by having a meal together at a restaurant. At the same time, Yutang announced that Wei Yi, the director who liked He Zhi Zhou, invited him to dinner to celebrate her birthday. But He Zhi Zhou chose to decline the invitation and asked Yutang to go in his place. In short, they were already at the restaurant, and Dodo tried to help Shen Xi get closer to He Zhi Zhou. Meanwhile, Wei Yi, who was waiting for He Zhi Zhou's arrival, had prepared herself by unbuttoning her shirt slightly to appear more alluring. However, the person who arrived was not He Zhi Zhou but Yutang. Seeing this, Wei Yi felt disappointed, thinking she was unimportant to He Zhi Zhou, and decided to leave the place. Coincidentally, they were in the same place, so Wei Yi saw He Zhi Zhou spending time alone with Shuni. Shortly after, Yutang also came out and saw them. Additionally, Yutang also realized that he could not get close to Shen Xi because He Zhi Zhou liked her. The next day, Yutang met with He Zhi Zhou and informed him that Wei Yi's company had canceled their collaboration with their company. Yutang then asked He Zhi Zhou to pay more attention to the collaboration, as it would impact their company. Eventually, He Zhi Zhou immediately contacted Wei Yi and invited her to dinner as an apology. Not long after, during the dinner, Wei Yi seemed happy with the change in He Zhi Zhou's attitude. However, when He Zhi Zhou presented a surprise birthday cake to Wei Yi, the person who brought the cake was Shen Xi, which made Wei Yi angry and very jealous. Realizing this, He Zhi Zhou then asked Wei Yi to separate personal matters from company collaboration issues. Hearing that, Wei Yi agreed and was willing to continue their collaboration, but on the condition that Shen Xi was fired. Without a second thought, He Zhi Zhou immediately left and took Shen Xi with him, indicating that he chose to end the collaboration with Wei Yi rather than fire Shen Xi, whom he loved. But outside, Shen Xi heard Wei Yi, who was angry and wished He Zhi Zhou would just die. Shortly after Wei Yi said that, a giant clock hand fell and was about to hit He Zhi Zhou. Seeing the danger, Shen Xi immediately ran and pushed He Zhi Zhou to save him, which shocked He Zhi Zhou to see Shen Xi willing to sacrifice herself. Unfortunately, Shen Xi's condition became critical, even though she had been taken to the hospital. The doctor then informed that Shen Xi had lost a lot of blood and suffered severe internal organ damage. After that, Dodo and He Zhi Zhou watched as Shen Xi's condition worsened, and this made them feel very sad. He Zhi Zhou, who was deeply shaken, started thinking of a way to rewind time and save Shen Xi. In an increasingly desperate situation, he forced Dodo to scold and curse him. Additionally, he also asked the same from people in the hospital. Unfortunately, that method failed, so He Zhi Zhou thought of jumping from the hospital roof, hoping that time would rewind then. At the end of the story, Shen Xi suddenly woke up from her sleep and realized that time had reset to the first day she worked at He Zhi Zhou's company. Still in her pajamas, Shen Xi hurried to her office, and fate reunited Shen Xi and He Zhi Zhou, who still remembered her even though time had reset. In the end, they were able to continue their lives together in a better way, and the story came to an end. Moral lesson from the story: don't use your rent money to buy online products, or you'll end up dodging eviction notices while practicing CPR on your grumpy boss. Also, never curse someone if you're not ready to rewind time and deal with their ghostly tantrums.